In terms of where we're at in computer industry history, I mean, if you think back to key events, 1984, IBM brings out its PC, 2007, the iPhone comes along. If you describe the time we're currently in now, I mean, where you are talking about the Internet of Things and 3D printing, I mean, are we part of a big upheaval that's happening, or is there a bigger upheaval even to come?
Well, we're seeing the time cycles shorten in terms of innovation of technology. So where we 20 years ago were sort of used to 5 or 10 year shifts, those have shrunk really to be 2-year shifts in technology. And we can see when we then encounter consumer-based technologies, for example, in mobile phones, I mean, what somebody bought 6 months ago is out of fashion now, right? So part of technology has become really the fashion industry. But the big upheaval, I think, comes over the course of the next 10 years because of the smart technologies that are coming in, technologies that will allow us to automate decisions that human beings or knowledge workers make. We believe that there's a high likelihood that 1/3 of all knowledge worker jobs today will in fact disappear by 2025, because I can use technology to frankly make the decisions that either we all make at certain times during the day, or that in fact certain job functions perform today. And so one could say that creates opportunity for new jobs, and the flip side of it is it could also therefore create a level of social disruption with regards to technology.
That's the interesting thing. I mean, we're already seeing tech create friction in places like San Francisco, where you know, some people who work in technology are doing very well, and they're encroaching on, say, communities that are not being carried along with that wave. Yes. If we're looking ahead, in Europe alone, we're talking about 700,000 job vacancies in ICT alone based on skills. If you're looking to the next 10, 15 years, how could people best prepare themselves? What kind of skills should they be looking at? We hear about everything from coding to data scientists. In your opinion, and from what you're seeing, what would be the smart moves people should be making in terms to make sure that they're economically viable in this interesting new world?
Well, I mean, you touched on some of the foundational skill sets that are going to be in significant demand. One is obviously programming expertise, just the sheer capability of programming, because we're not only talking, again, about programming for IT systems today, we're talking about programming for cars, we're talking about programming for dishwashers, so the demand for programmers will continue to rise. As I said, information is the oil of the 21st century. It's really what makes the world tick. And so analytical knowledge, statistical knowledge, ability to analyze, put together information in a non-linear manner becomes a really important skill set. But thirdly, there's the whole aspect of design, usability, that becomes incredibly important. That's the kind of skill set you tend to find in game developers, individuals that actually know how human beings interact with systems. Because there's a fundamental friction right now that's caused by technology. On the one hand side, you have what we would call in Gartner, the digital machinist. These are people that believe you can automate everything in sight. And you probably can to a degree. But there's another side to this, which is what we call the digital humanist, because we think that systems need to be designed around what people want and need and can accept. And that skill set, which is user experience, customer experience, design principles, become really valuable. We don't have enough of those. It requires a different skill set, more adaptive. And that kind of skill set we would probably want to see more of from an educational perspective in schools, because we will need that to really allow for the appropriate integration of technology and human beings in the future. So the aspect of the digital humanist is, in our mind, a really important principle to consider alongside what I would call the digital machinist, which has been prevalent the last 40, 50 years with technology.
Usually the person tasked with aligning the machines and the people is the CIO in an organization, and the CIO, I'm hearing not only, I think the job of CIO has probably become one of the most sexy jobs in the tech industry at the moment because of all these great challenges, but at the same time I'm hearing more about the rise of Chief Digital Officer. Is there a point where these two will be the one, or is it the case that both have separate roles to play?
I'd probably start with saying that there's a series of capabilities in organizations that are important, and one can then decide whether or not you entrust it in one person, and then what you call that person. There's probably 4 key capabilities that are important for the future. One is obviously to look at the ecosystem infrastructure of technology, and that then now spans not just the computer systems, but everything we use, right? So everything becomes a computer. And somebody needs to coordinate that integration. There is then the fact that information is a corporate asset, it's a strategic asset. It's also strategic for us personally, so we have to take that serious. Somebody needs to coordinate that in enterprises. Then you have the whole aspect of digital risk and digital security. Somebody needs to coordinate that. And then the last and fourth point is this aspect of user experience and customer experience. Somebody also needs to coordinate that. Now those 4 capabilities could reside in multiple people in an organization, but it probably would be inefficient. So you could say it's probably best to put that coordination, and I don't say ownership, I say coordination responsibility in one person and one organization. That likely could be the IT organization and the CIO, or you could call it the chief digital officer, but they would have those responsibilities. And I think that leads to then a smaller IT organization, because you don't need the number of people that we currently today have in infrastructure. You don't need the number of people that you have in applications, because all of this will be in the cloud, but you need more people that do analytics and information and data. You need more people that do security and risk. So you have sort of a rebalancing of the skills needed and a set of core capabilities that need to be entrusted from a coordination perspective in one person, and you can then decide what you want to call the person.